Bertha Coon Chambers, born June 23, 1884, to John Abraham Coon and Charlotte Hirst in Coonville, the southernmost part of Pleasant Green. Today it is known as the Bacchus part of Magna, Utah. She was 90 years old in 1975 when she was interviewed by my grandmother, Alice Evelyn Sadler Goble, for the book, The Heritage of the Abraham Coon Family. It is my hope that future generations will know our history, and I share it with love. I'm Robert Goble, and welcome to Pleasant Green.
We'd like to say a few words about Coonville, if you will, Bertha, but just a moment. We, as members of the Abraham Coon Historical and Genealogical Committee, this evening, the 24th day of April, 1975, are convened at the home of Clifford Coon and his lovely wife, Laverna, 3431 South, 2300 East, in Salt Lake City. The highlight of this meeting will be the special privilege of hearing from a very distinguished lady, the oldest living descendant of Abraham Coon and Elizabeth Yarbrough, namely Bertha Coon Chambers, wife of the late Frank Chambers. Bertha was born June 23, 1884, to John Abraham and Charlotte Hirst, to John Abraham Coon and Charlotte Hirst in Coonville, an orderly and peaceful community established by the sons and daughters of Abraham Coon under his most capable leadership. This village, which was established on the foothills in the extreme western part of Salt Lake Valley, marks the beginning of literally thousands of people in Utah and the western states, and perhaps all of the states in the Union, as well as Canada, Europe, and Australia. Although the village was no longer exists, the choice memories of those who were born and lived there will last as long as life endures. We will now be favored to hear from Bertha, the oldest living person born in Coonville. I would like to, yes, you hold it with me there, to give a little history about the school, the first school in Coonville, and it was the year 1883. The citizens of South Pleasant Green, and by the way, you know, Coonville was always in the Pleasant Green
ward. It was the south end of the Pleasant Green ward, and there were so many coons living there that it was just kind of given the name of Coonville. And oh dear, I can't. But anyway, the residents in 1883, they began thinking about a school within walking distance for their children. And they purchased a one-room lumber building from John A. Coon and moved it to a 2-acre lot donated by Isaac Coon. And Isaac Coon was we always called him Big Uncle Ike. And and later on, a brick building was erected on this same property. And this is where the children of that community went for a number of years. The first teachers in the little school were Hayden Smith, John A. Coon, and Rosella Jenkins. And then there was a teacher by the name of Bannerman. And I remember going to his school. He was quite a small man, and he was English, and I think he came out there from Salt Lake City to teach. And then I've been asked about the trees, what kind of trees in Coons Canyon, and about the different flowers that grew out there on the hills and down in the hollows of that community. And I think most of the trees in the canyon were oak and maple. And there was now on the property that my father had, there was a place we always called the Oquirrh Flat, and there was a lot of scrub oak. It didn't seem to grow very tall, but in the spring there were so many beautiful wild flowers. And of course there were seagull lilies there, and in other places around on the different fields. And then there were the buttercups. They were cute little yellow flowers. And sweet williams, and there was lots of wild rose bushes. They just seemed to grow up in so many different places, and they were yellow, just lovely yellow roses, and they just grew in such profusion in some places. Of course, people tried to clear them out. They just didn't want them to crowd out other things. And of course, the Coonville was above the canal, which went out there that was, I guess, about a mile below where we all lived. And so the farms up above the canal were all dry farms. And when there was lots of snow in the winter time, the crops were very good. And when there wasn't so much snow, the crops weren't so good. And they raised wheat and some barley, I remember. And there was water that came down from Coon's Canyon in the spring of the year. And, of course, that depended on snowfall. And, of course, there was a good-sized stream when there was plenty of snow, but it took lots of work to keep the ditches in repair. I know Father and so many of the men would have to go work on the ditch, and they formed a company, I guess, because I know Father was the secretary.
Coon's Canyon Irrigating Company, Bertha.
Yeah, Coon's Canyon Irrigating Company. And, of course, that was a great help at times, but it didn't, the water didn't last so long, but while it did last, it was a great help to the different ones. And it seemed there was water quite close to the surface in several places. There were springs quite close to the surface. I know that's the way it was on Father's place. And the old home where great-grandfather Coon lived, that was up above our home, and he I guess he took out the homestead. I think that's what it was. A large tract of land, great-grandfather Coon did. So, because he had lots of sons, and I think they worked together. They were very congenial and helping each other. And my father was the oldest grandson, and he practically grew up out there on that ranch. And I do remember when I was a youngster, my grandfather and grandmother Coon lived there, John and Tabitha. And there was the loveliest spring, and they always had a lovely garden. And grandmother just loved to work out in the garden. And they raised just practically all kinds of vegetables. And grandmother used to make the best soda biscuits that ever was, it seemed like. I don't remember her making loaves of bread. But she,
cornbread, too.
oh yes, cornbread, soda biscuits. Of course, she was from the South, and I just suppose that's the kind of bread they had there. But anyway, we children just loved to go there and have some of grandmother's hot biscuits.
You used to go with her, too, to pick the wool off the
Oh,
fences.
oh my goodness, yes. And of course, they were quite close to the mountains, or to the foothills, they were always called. And there was quite a number in the family who owned sheep. So there was sheep all kind of round up in the foothills. And my grandfather had a very dear friend named Wilford Woodruff. Grandfather always called him Willie. So grandfather and Willie would walk around up in the hills prospecting. I don't know what they hoped to find, but anyway, they went prospecting. And grandmother would go along, and she always wore a big gingham apron that gathered around the waist. It was very full, and she would pick the bottom of that apron up and tuck it over the band around her waist, and just kind of leave a little opening at one side. And we children just loved to go along with them. And we would help her get the wool off from the sagebrush. And she would sometimes, by the time we got back, she had, just an apron full of wool. And we had just had a delightful time. And we'd sit on the porch and rest and relax. And grandfather and Willie would nearly always start talking about Brother Joseph and Brother Hiram and Brother Brigham. I just remember hearing them, talk on and on. And grandmother always carded the wool. Now, my brother Bert just loved to help her do that. He got so he could do it very well. And then she would spin it. She had a spinning wheel. And I remember, it was just quite a large wheel. And Bert got so he could manage that. He helped her spin yarn at times. And she, of course, she was nearly always had her knitting to do, and she would knit stockings and socks. And then, after they were knit, then that's when she would wash the wool. And it would just come out, in the whatever she had knit, just so nice and light and fluffy.
Bertha was the first white woman.
What dear? Oh my goodness, yes. And my grandmother, Mary Tabitha, was the first white woman to live in that part of the country.
What was the name of the schoolhouse out there, Bertha?
Name of the schoolhouse?
I don't think it had a name. Oh, but anyway, when later on, when the brick building was erected, it was just much a nice, large school, so it seemed then there was just the one room, though, for all the 8 grades. And, there was what they called, there was a back entrance, the hallway at the back, where we would always leave our wraps. Those that took lunches, their lunch buckets, and there was a bench there with a bucket of water and a dipper and a wash basin.
Did it have a special name, that school?
I believe it was called the Oquirrh School up near the Oquirrh Mountains.
Didn't they also hold the church functions in this?
Oh, yes, they did. Years, quite a few years later, but they just let me just tell something more before we come to that. Now, the John Hirst family moved out there. I have it written down someplace.
They came here from
Oh,
England.
and Coonville was always a part of the Pleasant Green Ward, which was a branch of Brighton Ward. And the Brighton Ward was located clear across the valley, kind of where, around where North Point is, and kind of near the Jordan River. But when the John Hirst family moved out there, why, he was put in as presiding elder by Bishop Schoenfeld, who was the bishop of the Brighton Ward. And anyway, this was John Hirst Sr., and he held this position until his death.
Where did John Hirst live, Bertha?
Where did John Hirst live?
Oh,
He lived where I
do you remember where Isaac W. Coon lived?
Yes.
Like, well, that was John Hirst's home. That is the John Hirst Jr., and I think John Hirst Sr. lived around there, close around someplace. I'm not sure just where he did live.
And didn't that home burn down, and it's not the one that's standing out there now? That home burned down.
Oh yes.
Uncle Ike and Aunt Elva.
Yes, it did.
It was after Aunt Elva died that that home burned down.
It was.
But it was originally John Hirst.
Mm-hmm. But now to get back to the Hirsts, now my grandmother, Charlotte Hirst, was the first Relief Society president out there, and she held that position until her death. And her counselors were Frances Hardman and Anne Bertosh.
Do you want to tell about the Indians that used to visit you every summer and camp?
Yes. Mm-hmm. They'd come across the mountain from the Tooele side, cross over in what was called the Muddies. And I remember my brother Bert telling me once, now this was just, of course, when we were pretty well up in years, we were talking about these things, and Bert said, you can go up in the canyon to a certain place, and you can see kind of where the trail that the Indians made crossing over was still there after so many years.
Did she know about the sawmill, Abraham Coon's sawmill?
No, I'd never heard about it, only in his history it is mentioned.
Bertha, I talked to Rudd today about it, and
Oh,
he has an idea that there was a small sawmill there.
oh,
It
well,
never was of any great size, but they made a dam up at the Forks,
huh.
and there was a sawmill, although a very small size.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's... Oh, and anyway, why I think that the Hirst family should be talked about is so many of their daughters married in the Coon family.
Why was it called Coon Canyon?
In honor of Abraham Coon. And he got a charter. I don't know, it just kind of seemed like from Brigham Young to build this road in the canyon. And anyway, it was named Coon's Canyon in his honor.
Bertha, do you remember where the Eck family lived?
Oh, the Eck family.
Oh my goodness, yes. They lived about a mile south of our place.
In the mouth of the canyon,
No,
about where Bacchus is.
yes,
Just west of
about
Bacchus.
where Bacchus is.
It lived up along the mountain there where the coon that played the, what was his name?
Joe?
No, not Joe. He just died a while back.
Walt.
Walt Coon.
Oh,
They lived up down, a little ways down from Walt Coon. I can remember going there with my mom and dad. The eggs.
And then there was a Bob Dave too. We've never been able to find out where Bob Dave lived. Do you remember Bob Dave? Do you remember Bob Dave? I think he was a brother to Isaac W. Coon.
Bob Dave
Uncle
Coon.
Dave.
Oh,
I
Uncle
remember
Dave.
him.
Oh, yes, Uncle Dave. Now, he married a niece of Mother's, Nancy Dearden's daughter, Nellie, and her daughter, Maud. Aunt Nancy's daughter, Maud, married Joe Coon, and her daughter, Lottie, married Jake Hardman. And of course,
Where did they live?
my mother was a Hirst, you see, Charlotte Hirst.
Where did Uncle Dave live, do you remember?
You know where what they call 5 Points up there? I know that country on account of the scouts that we used to take up there all the time.
Well-
They lived on what is called 5 Points now.
Wasn't it over near where Joe?
Clifford,
Way over,
which Uncle Dave?
Uncle Dave and Aunt Nellie. Where did they live?
Well,
Is that the little one that had the long beard?
do
Uncle Dave?
you,
That was Aunt Dave
Clifford,
and Aunt Mary.
do you remember where,
Yeah, that's right.
do you remember where Aunt Nancy
Yeah,
and Uncle Joe Dearden lived?
right near where Joe Coon lived.
Yes, they lived in that little brick or adobe house across the street for a while. And then, they moved to Huntsville.
There were 4 of them.
And Joe Coon and Maud lived in that house.
Well, when making a map of Coonville, we couldn't decide just where this Bob Coon lived, and I thought probably it was right across the street from Aunt Tabitha. Aunt Tabitha lived on the hill, you know, east of Joe Coon. And then there were some old barns across the street there. Could that be where Bob Coon lived?
Aunt Tabitha lived down in the corner of Uncle Ike W.'s place. Later, but not first.
She lived on the
But years and years before, you know, they lived up. I always understood it was the original home of Abraham Coon out there.
Uncle John's place.
That
Uncle John's place was Abraham's original home. Your father's home, your grandfather's.
my grandfather's home for a number of years, and then they moved away from there, and then Uncle Ike W. lived there several years before he bought Uncle John Hirst's home.
Did Abraham Coon live in that home?
I suppose he did when they first went out there, you see. Just before dark, with just huge loads of wood.
What type of wood would that be? Would it be the pine or would it be the oak?
What type of wood, do you know?
Well, I just understood it as mostly oak and, what did I
Pine.
say?
Maple.
No, maple, oak
Maple.
and maple.
Some Quickeness.
Did you want to tell about the peddlers around Coonville?
Oh my goodness, yes. every once in a while a peddler would come from Salt Lake, peddling all kinds of different ointments and salve and, sure cures for everything. And, needles and thread and button hooks, I remember always, button hooks.
Did they carry all that in their pack all at once?
No, they would have some kind of, they'd drive a horse.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of a little one-horse rig. And they would always stay overnight
The Peddlers.
to grandfather and grandmother Coons. Oh my, yes, they would.
Their doors was open to everybody. In the history of this advertisement, it tells that the Indians called their babies the Kuno Papoose.
Yes, yes. Did I think
You would,
grandmother's sister?
do you want to tell about the carpet rag and quilting bees?
Oh my goodness, yes. I used to get together, the women and have quilting bees and sew carpet rags, and that was quite an occasion. And the little ones that they couldn't leave home, they'd bring with them.
What did you do for doctors? Midwives.
Went without them.
You know about Grandma Smith, the midwife?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes,
Tell
I
her-
can see just where she lived. Now, she was the wife of this Hayden Smith who taught school. And yes, she was the doctor out there.
Mattie Coon delivered a lot of them too. Julia's mother.
Uh-huh. And I remember this Emma's I had Emma Smith when this girl was born. I did. And it just cost me $5.
I'm not worth much, am I?
That was the doctor there.
Will you tell about the amusing incident at the quilting bee, following the quilting bee?
Oh dear. I told Edna this just before we came. Well, at one of the quilting bees, at Aunt Frances Hartman's, Aunt Kate Coon was there, and she was expecting a baby real soon. And my goodness, after she'd been there a little while, she just began to feel like she'd got to get home just as quick as she possibly could. And she couldn't walk home. So Uncle Lee Hartman took her home in the wheelbarrow. I just remember the folks talking about that.
That would be my grandmother.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
That would have been quite a thing, a baby born in the wheel.
Oh, gracious.
Did she get home on time?
Oh, yes, she got home on time. And all the families, practically all of them out there, had large families. They really did. Oh, and there was another lady. She was related to the family. I think she was a sister of great-grandfather Coon. and we always called her Aunt Sookie. And her name was Susan Taylor.
Do you remember when they had the diphtheria epidemic?
Yes. But Aunt Sookie would come and stay with the different families when they were expecting a baby. She'd come out from Salt Lake, and sometimes she'd be in the different homes for 3 or 4 weeks.
Which one was Aunt Net? I think she was Rachel, wasn't she? Aunt Net?
And
Mother taught, she came to our home.
Her name was Annette Gardner.
That was Aunt Net. That's Mary Gardner.
Yes.
I guess so.
I think her name was Mary, but I'm not sure.
I know it was Aunt Net, and Aunt Coon had
Cat.
another one. Both came from Idaho.
Is there any
Isn't that long enough?
Bertha, tell about the Sunday school and the MIA that
They lived in
they used to
Memphis.
hold down in the little chapel there. Little schoolhouse.
in the schoolhouse? Yes. Well, I don't know just how it came about, but I guess it was because it was a long ways to get all of them down to the Pleasant Green ward. So they decided to hold Sunday school in the schoolhouse, the brick schoolhouse, Sunday school, and mutual, primary, and religion class. Now, Father was, president, you call it that, president of the mutual, and I was trying to think who his counselors were. Do you know Clifford?
No, I don't.
And then the Sunday school, who was
I
superintendent?
think it was Isaac W.
I said,
Uncle Ike.
well, now I know Big Uncle Ike was superintendent of the Sunday school when we all met together down in the Pleasant Green ward. I remember that at one time. But, and I think Aunt Mary and Aunt Kate, Aunt Mary Coon and Aunt Kate Coon were, I don't know which was the president of the primary. One was president and one was a counselor, and I just don't remember the other, who the other counselor was. And then the religion class, William Jenkins was the head of that. We always called Uncle Bill Jenkins, because his wife was Fanny Hirst.
Tired, Bertha?
I began to feel
Was everything you know, Bertha?
To watch that.
We especially want to thank Bertha tonight for coming here, such a choice person as she is. And you are now in your 91st year, almost 91, aren't you, Bertha? Be 91 in June? So Bertha will be 91 June 23rd.
Third.
And we do want to thank Bertha. It's really a privilege to have her come here this night and say these, give this history for us. And thank you, Bertha.
very happy, I